Welcome to Touchdown Nerdcast, starring Jordan, Frank, and Andrew. Frank just shakes his head immediately. I think he's upset of himself. He's just like,
I'm
I'm
waiting
on the
for the
show.
jingle.
The
Let's hear
jingle?
I'm waiting for your name.
We gotta get somebody classic, just like the Empire Carpet or somebody to do it, or Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen should do our jingle.
I'm waiting
That'd
for you
be
to drop
great.
your name.
Oh yeah. You can call me Pump.
There we go.
Have you guys come up with nicknames yet?
I have not.
All right. Got one for both of you.
Oh God.
Mm-hmm. Your nickname is Nightmare.
Whose name is Nightmare?
Frank's.
Why is his Nightmare?
Minus?
Because he is the essence of my nightmares.
Fair enough.
Just look at that screen of his. That doesn't scare you?
A little bit.
And Jordan's nickname is Twizzler.
That's racist.
How is that racist?
I don't know.
I mean, if anything, you're the Strawberry Twizzlers. So that's
no matter what your name was going to be for me, I was going to say it was racist.
It is August 15th. We had some big news yesterday, and Ezekiel Elliott signed with the Patriots. And Dalvin Cook signed with the Jets. So that means Rhamondre Stevenson and Bryce Hall are no longer fantasy relevant.
What? I think that's a little excessive.
For stating it.
Yeah, at least for Rhamondre. Zeke's a shell of his former self. He's still good in short yardage, but he's not doing much in terms of his 40-yard breakaways and his, he's going to be more so the short yardage back, I would say. But not even that, because that's something Rhamondre is good at too. So I think he's just there as a depth option. Now, Bryce Hall on the other side, Dalvin Cook, he's still very much a stud. I think that's going to take a big hit for Bryce Hall, especially considering he's probably going to miss at least a couple weeks. I know he's saying he can come back now, but we haven't seen it. So in all likelihood, he's going to get pushed back a little bit. And if Dalvin's doing well, I can't imagine they're just going to cut him off. But I imagine they want to keep both sets of legs fresh.
I think my perspective on the Bryce Hall, Dalvin Cook situation would be like, I know we're discussing at some point in this podcast, whether it's today or the next podcast we do, the difference in like drafting a standard redraft league and a keeper or dynasty. I feel okay about Bryce Hall as a keeper or a dynasty keep, but I think that with the move to get Aaron Rodgers and with Bryce Hall coming off an injury where you don't know what he's going to be able to do, that their goal is like Super Bowl or bust this year. So to me, it's like Dalvin Cook's going to be the front runner to get the touches, knowing that they could save Bryce Hall for the next year or two to get him completely healthy, depending on what their rebuild strategy is going to be. I think this year and next year, especially, is there's go big or go home. Try to get to a Super Bowl, try to get to the playoffs, win a couple games there. And I just think Dalvin Cook, with his track record and the fact that he's been healthier and not coming off an injury like Bryce Hall, I think they're just being careful and have the ability to kind of let him just sit there and get back to full health without rushing him into a workload.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like in a standard league where here's some background noise coming from Jordan's end. I feel like in a standard league, Bryce Hall takes a big hit because it's a one and done thing. You're trying to win the championship that season. So I think he falls way down. If you were thinking you're going to get a top 16 back out of Breece Hall, you're more like, can I get a top 30 back out of Breece Hall now?
Yeah, really, he's just a handcuff.
I mean,
Keeper league,
for
you're hoping he's valuable for multiple years.
I'm hoping that the situation in the Jets ends up being just as useful as we saw a few years ago with the Saints. Kamara and Ingram were both top 10 backs for a couple seasons, or at least top 15. And I think that's possible. I mean, they're both very talented. So it all come down to usage and when they can both get healthy. So I know Dalvin Cook is still recovering from off-season surgery himself. So he may get off to a slow start.
I think the problem is, like, normally when you've seen these backfields of these two-headed monsters like the Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams, AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones, what Frank was just saying, with what team were we just talking about with that?
The Saints.
You could see, the Saints with Kamara and Ingram. You've seen it with Tampa with, like, last year with Leonard Fournette and Rachaad White. I just see Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall as the same type of running back. They're both elusive guys that can catch the ball. So it's not like you have the one that's going to be like the ground and pound type guy. I think you're going to get a lot of that this year.
I feel like you get a better 1-2 punch when it's like the LeGarrette Blount versus White for New England, where White was what's White's first name? James White.
James White, yeah.
Yeah, where James White was just catching every ball, but LeGarrette Blount was just pounding in all the touchdowns. It's easier to get that two running back relevancy. It's going to be hard, I feel like, with Breece Hall and Cook, where they have, I believe, similar skills.
Well, I think it's one of those, like, who's going to be the guy that gets it in the goal line? Like, when they're inside the 5, who's going in? My guess right off the bat would be Dalvin Cook, because he's been in that position with Minnesota the last couple of years to be the guy that's finishing around the goal line. I mean, maybe Breece Hall winds up being that guy and Dalvin Cook gets him down there. It could just be one of those that they split series and you got Dalvin Cook or Breece Hall that rip off a big gain and get down inside the 10, and then they give them a breather and bring the other one in, and it just happens to be whoever happens to be the guy that get him down there, the next guy's going to go in for the touchdown possibility. So I think it's just impossible to predict.
I think that's what we're going to see. And like you said, Dalvin Cook has a history of being the guy. The past 4 years, he's got at least 1,100 yards every season, and he's got a 16 touchdown season himself. So we know he can punch it in. I'm not too worried about that. We still have some stuff to see from Breece Hall, but I think we saw enough last year to know that he can be the guy. We just don't know if he's an every down back for sure, and whether or not he can shoulder the load for a full season. So I think it'll help having Dalvin Cook there. Keeping both guys healthy, but no one's going to get that, RB1 load, which definitely hurts. They're both still valuable. I think I'd like to have them both on my team, and I'll probably end up bidding on them both this Sunday when we draft. But, but they're not going to be the top option that I was hoping.
I think the craziest part with it is, like, you got two guys that between Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall arguably are guys that probably, if they stayed where they would have stayed, are guys that are going into the second and third rounds. And now where do you value them? Like, are you taking them ahead of round 5 when you know they're going to be splitting touches and you have no idea how that backfield's going to shake out in the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, it'll be tough.
Like, where do you think those guys fall to? I know we bridged off, like, talking running backs last week. Guys like David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, Miles Sanders, guys like that. Like, where do you value? And Alvin Kamara, like, where do you put Dalvin Cook or Breece Hall? Are you taking either of those guys ahead of people like that? Like, where does Rhamondre Stevenson fall now? I mean, that guy was in arguably a back end second round, head of the third round, like ADP. Like, where is he now? Like, I'm 100% with Frank. I think Zeke is washed up and it's just kind of there to just give some kind of veteran leadership or to just give Rhamondre a little bit different look, or the Patriots offense a little bit different look. But I don't see him. If you were going to tell me at the end of the season what the touch percentage is going to be, I wouldn't be shocked if Rhamondre is 75% and Zeke is 15.
Okay. As far as Rhamondre, his value taking the hit, I think he was solidly a second-round pick, maybe an early third-rounder. I think this will only bump him down to the end of the third round.
Okay.
If not, the mid-fourth. But either way, he still carries a lot of value. Somebody I would like, of the three guys, well, I guess of the four running backs, Zeke, Cook, Rhamondre, and Breece Hall, I want Rhamondre the most. And then I probably am favoring Dalvin Cook and then Breece Hall. But they're almost neck and neck, just because I think Dalvin will be healthy sooner.
They're all been knocked out of like the 200 fantasy point tier. They're all at like the 180, 190. There.
Still useful, but more a flex guy.
Yeah.
Instead of that lead back you were hoping to get.
Or just a nice handcuff that can carry that workload if somebody was to get hurt in that backfield.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if Dalvin Cook ends up getting hurt, Breece Hall becomes an instant RB1.
I think that's the tough part.
Vice versa, so.
How do you value that in a draft where if you were sitting there with a David Montgomery or a Gibbs, like, how do you value that? Like, where it's like, if to me, David Montgomery got hurt, you still got a rookie who's unproven. Like, I would feel much more confident in Breece Hall or Dalvin Cook if you knew one of the two were getting injured. Like, I would take them ahead. I think that obviously for like the Patriots backfield, I think anybody who's taken a flyer late rounds on Zeke as a handcuff, I could see them, if for some reason Rhamondre got hurt, that they bring somebody else in and Zeke isn't getting the 75% workload if Rhamondre was to go down.
Yeah. Just for the sake of doing an exercise, I had recorded the values that certain sites had given Breece Hall a couple nights ago before the news broke. And they valued him at roughly $28. Actually, hold on, let me double check. Yeah, $28 out of a $200 budget. And now they're valuing Breece Hall at $24. So, and they're still ranking him around RB17. So he didn't take a huge hit. He went down 4 slots in their rankings. I think this one's Fantasy Pros. So updated rankings, yeah, he's dropped a little bit of value, but they're still expecting him to be useful. Anywho, yeah, he's still the highest rank of those two backs, Dalvin and him. But Dalvin did shoot up quite a bit.
I mean, like you said, though, I think the question mark there is who's going to ultimately take that backfield, because I think with what they did this offseason and what they're trying to do, obviously, this year coming up, whoever the more efficient, productive back, whether it's a scheme thing or just knowing the system and understanding the plays or being better at pass protection. Like, to me, bringing in a guy like Aaron Rodgers is like bringing in Tom Brady. Like, if Aaron Rodgers goes to the coaching staff in week 1 or 2 after preseason's done, or after a couple weeks of the season starts, and goes, I much prefer Dalvin Cook to be back in the backfield with me, that could ultimately play out to be, that's the fantasy production you're going to see, is it comes down to personnel and what a veteran quarterback who tends to be a prima donna and gets his way a lot could ultimately dictate that. And with the fact that Aaron Rodgers was under so much scrutiny last year with his young wide receiving core and held nothing back when it came to criticizing them and not trusting them when it came to games, I could see that being a Breece Hall problem, being a young guy that was coming off injury, where Aaron Rodgers could just simply go, he doesn't know the system. I don't trust him to do what I need him to do. I'd rather have Dalvin out there.
Yep.
The good thing is that Hackett is the offensive coordinator.
That's true.
While he failed in Denver, when he was in Green Bay, I feel like he did feed both A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones a healthy workload.
He does have experience using two backs like that. But again, I think those two backs were so opposite,
They
different,
are.
and these two are so similar that I think that also I'm guessing that Aaron Rodgers had some trust in Dylan and in Aaron Jones. And I think there's a little bit less of a trust factor if you're Aaron Rodgers going, hey, if Dylan's in the game, you're probably just handing the ball off to him in short yardage situations. So there's not a lot of trust to be had, where Aaron Jones clearly was the better pass protector and route runner. So it's like you went into the hurry up mode or they were in trail mode, like AJ Dillon was coming off the field. And I just think that the experience of Dalvin Cook is going to trump a young player in Breece Hall when it comes to something like that in Aaron Rodgers' eyes.
All right, moving on. The focus of today's episode was going to be on first-year QBs, first-year signal callers. I sent you guys a list of those guys.
Yep.
I don't know that the conversation needs to be specifically about just the QBs and whether or not they're fantasy relevant, but what does it mean for the offenses that they're on?
I mean, who do you want to start with?
You tell me how many first-year signal callers are there?
Well, if you're counting Desmond Ridder because he came off being like a 4-game starter last year, for Atlanta, 4 or 5 game starter.
I'm counting Desmond
I mean, if you're
Ridder.
counting him, are you counting? You're counting Jordan Love because obviously he hasn't gotten a chance to start yet. I mean,
did Sam Howell play a couple games last year too?
Sam Howell in the league last year? Okay. I thought he was drafted this year. My bad.
Yeah, I don't remember if he played a couple games at the end of last year or not. But
so the true first year guys are CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Bryce Young, the guys that went ahead top in the draft.
Yeah.
Include all the other guys too. 7 or 8 new signal callers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the rookies, I'm not too excited about any of them in their rookie season. I would say overall, yeah, you're excited, but I don't think they're going to do a ton, and they're going to end up hurting the value of the wide receivers and tight ends on their teams. So, I mean, CJ Stroud didn't look great the other night.
I think statistically, running backs statistically struggle with new QBs too, rookie QBs.
I think the scary part to me is like to me last year was like the Bears were the biggest example of a team not to take offensive players from until it was Justin Fields like the last 8 games of the season. I think my biggest red flag of somebody I don't want to take any offensive players from is Indy. I don't like the Colts at all. I think Anthony Richardson devalues his wideouts because he doesn't throw well or has not been proven to throw well yet. And I could see a guy like Jonathan Taylor getting a bunch of yards because of the read option threat. But I see Anthony Richardson pulling a Jalen Hurts where his touchdown dependency is going to be way down. So to me, it's like even a guy that benefits a little in the read option ability with a quarterback like Richardson, I don't trust anybody on the Colts offense as a fantasy player this year.
Yeah, I'm steering clear from most guys too. If you're throwing darts at any of the guys, you're just hoping that they give you something, but I don't think you're expecting a ton. And maybe Anthony Richardson can give you some value with his legs, but as far as the skill positions, I'm trying to avoid them.
I think the tough part too, and it sucks, like especially if you were in a keeper league or a dynasty, is like with Alex Pierce, Michael Pittman, and I forget their tight end's name, the young guy that they had on the Colts last year. You've got skill position guys that are all young players that can help somebody. I just don't think he's the type of quarterback that's going to be able to spread it out like that, though. Like you put a Tom Brady in that offense, I'm probably taking 3 or 4 guys off that team. You put like an Aaron Rodgers, even like a Derek Carr in that, I'd probably take a shot at like a Pittman or their tight end.
Oh, yeah.
But with Anthony Richardson, to me, it's like almost like a poor man's Justin Fields. Like Justin Fields this year, even as much as I'm a big Justin Fields believer this year when it comes to fantasy, and I think he's just going to be better overall. I don't know what DJ Moore's production is going to look like. I don't know what Cole Kmet's production is going to look like. I really don't have high hopes for Claypool's production. I mean, I think it's still an offense to be wary of. Like, I mean, they're kind
I've
of
been
in the same
fading
similar
DJ
situation.
Moore myself. You know, we just haven't seen Fields throw the ball consistently enough where we're going to get the amount of yardage and touchdowns that we're going to need. So,
what do you think, Andy? You're a Justin Fields owner, so.
Yeah, screw Justin Fields. Justin Fields is not a first-year QB, so I'm not sticking with that. What about Sam Howell?
I'm avoiding him. just to, like, pretty much all of these guys I'm avoiding. There's maybe one quarterback, that a first-year starter, that I roll the dice on, and it's not Sam Howell.
Is it?
I don't like Sam Howell either.
Who are you? Who would you roll?
I don't like any of them, but if I'm gonna roll the dice, it's gonna be Jordan Love, just because he's been in the league for 4 years now. He's been learning behind an all-time great. You know, fun fact: he's actually, him and Aaron Rodgers coming out of college, their 40 times were like almost identical. So hopefully he can give you something on the ground like Aaron Rodgers used to. You know, you'd still get 300-400 yards rushing. And I don't think obviously he's not going to step in right away and do what Aaron Rodgers used to do, just sling it all over the place with accuracy. But hopefully he can make some good reads and get the ball where it needs to be a little bit more consistently than some of these young guys who just might need more time to develop and learn the system.
I just think if you're going off a weapons base, he's probably got the best offensive weapons around out of any of the quarterbacks that we just talked about. I mean, maybe you could make a case for Desmond Ridder having those type of options with Bijan.
Desmond Ridder might have the best.
He might. But again, that's saying that Kyle Pitts gets to what he's supposed to be. And it says that Drake London winds up being like, I don't see Drake London as a number one wideout yet. I think he's got the ability to be. But I'm not taking him ahead of probably 15 other wideouts at least when it comes to drafting. But I'm with Frank. I trust Jordan Love probably the most. He's had the best teacher. He has the most experience without really having experience. And he's with a system that's been implemented that he's gotten to watch. It's like there's not a lot of coaching change there for him. I think they know what they have in him, and there's a lot of ifs with everybody else in the systems that they're in. I think ultimately, out of the three rookies, I think CJ Stroud is probably going to be the best out of the three, but they have a terrible offense around him. That's going to make it really tough for him to look the part. I wouldn't be surprised if he does have a better season than what I would project him to have, but I don't think he's something that like you're going to want pieces in that offense necessarily just because of him.
Andy, here's my question for you. We know you're keeping Justin Fields, right? Are you willing to take any of these quarterbacks that you listed as a backup quarterback on your roster?
Willing to take any of these first-year QBs as a backup on my roster?
Yeah.
I would not. I don't think I would. I would not draft any of them.
Your sound cut out.
I would not draft any of them.
Okay. Yeah.
I would be willing to watch the waiver wire and see what they do.
Yeah, of course.
Like, especially if it's like, you know, for me, I'm keeping Kyle Pitts. So if Desmond Ridder starts lighting it up and I can
get that stack.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's tough because, like, unless I'm in a dynasty league, I'm not taking any of them. Like, there'd have to be multiple injuries to quarterbacks for me to pick one of those guys up. Like, you're talking that my quarterback option would have to be, like, you get your first quarterback, even your second quarterback hurt, and you're looking at free agency, and you're looking at guys in the free agency like a Baker Mayfield, then I'm considering like a Bryce Young, CJ Stroud instead, just because I don't like Baker. I don't think Baker's good, but like it would have to come down to that. I think if you look at all the other teams, there's at least 20 quarterbacks I'd rather have than any of the guys that are on that list.
Absolutely, I agree.
So if I named
them, will be on mine.
So we're all in agreement. None of us would draft any of these guys.
None of us are drafted.
Not outside of a dynasty.
Yeah, I feel like in years past, rookie QBs might have actually been drafted to like a good team, but I feel like the Texans are crap. I feel like the Panthers are crap, and I feel like the Colts have two guys, Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman.
But that's if Jonathan Taylor plays.
He plays, and Richardson of the three has the worst accuracy. So it's like none of them are good.
I think too, if you threw one of those guys into a better system, maybe you take a flyer.
None of them are in good positions.
Maybe if you take a flyer on one, like if you threw CJ Stroud or Bryce Young onto like even Tampa like a Bay. Team like Tampa or like the Rams or the Eagles, I'd be like
Patriots.
I might take them as a flyer second quarterback on my team and see what happens just because they're in a system like that. But like Andy said, outside of maybe Riddler and maybe Love, the rest of them are just bad offensive situations.
Yep.
I name wide receivers and I want you to rank them. Okay. Nico Collins, Michael Pittman, Christian Watson, Drake London, and Terry McLaurin.
You want me to rank them?
Yeah. What was that? 5 guys?
5 guys. I like Christian Watson the most. I'm going Drake London at 2. I'm going Nico Collins at 3, Terry McLaurin at 4, and Pittman at 5.
I think that's terrible, but that's fine.
Yeah, there's definitely ones I would disagree with. Frank, what are yours?
I mean, I'm putting McLaurin number 1. I think he's the most talented, and he's shown the most of those 5 so far. My gut wants me to put Pittman number 2 just because I've held on to him for a while, and I think he's also very skilled. I just don't love where he's at, so I'll probably put London number 2. Probably Pittman Pittman down at 4, Nico at 3. Watson's my number 5. I don't think he can catch, and like I said, I'm not sold on a lot of these quarterbacks, but I just not sold on Christian Watson.
I just think that in the game that Jordan Love only played a quarter and a half, Christian Watson was 4 for 110 on 6 targets with a touchdown. And I think he's the biggest playmaker out of the group that was listed. So to me, he's definitely my top guy that I'd rather take. I don't think Pittman's going to do anything this year with Richardson. I think.
Frank, will you pull up Christian Watson's game stats from last year?
I've got it up.
I have a feeling that Watson scored all of his fantasy points over like 4 weeks.
Yes.
I had him on my fantasy team. He was productive in like every week except for one.
He had one game where he had 6 or more receptions. One game at 5, the rest were 4 or under. He was inactive 3 games. A couple games he was only targeted once in 2 games.
Or his touchdowns.
He had 7 touchdowns. One of them was a 3-touchdown game, and that was on 4 receptions. And you just can't bank on that. And he was targeted 8 times. That's not a good catch rate, and that's coming from an Aaron Rodgers.
That's like an
he had
outlier game.
3 games with 100 yards, and it's just not the type of rookie season we'd hope to see when you have a good quarterback. And things that we saw better rookie seasons from a Justin Jefferson, a Jamar Chase, even a Michael Pittman. Pittman had a better rookie season with not great quarterback play his rookie year. So I just think that some of these other guys are better, and they may be in crappier situations, but his situation is not exactly sterling. We don't know what we're going to get from Love, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards your ranking, Frank, than Jordan's.
And that's okay. I'm wrong, once in a blue moon, so we'll see.
You don't know what it's like. Once he's on your team, you'll realize the magic.
Sure.
Another thing that I've heard is that running back production goes down with rookie QB callers. So I want to give you the 3 running backs that have rookie QBs: Dameon Pierce, Miles Sanders, and Jonathan Taylor. Do you believe in this? Do you think any of them will buck the trend and have good years or better years?
Who was that? Miles Sanders, Jonathan Taylor, and who was the third one?
Dameon Pierce. I think of the 3, just because we don't know, once again, what's going on with Jonathan Taylor. I obviously want Dameon Pierce the most, but he's right up there with Miles Sanders. So, I mean, I probably like the team better. Yeah, I probably like the overall team better for the Panthers. I don't know why, but I do, at least on the offensive side of the ball. But I still like Dameon Pierce, probably the best of those 2 from a skill set. And then if we know Jonathan Taylor's going to play, I mean, the guy's a stud when he's healthy. I'm not too worried about him from the run game. He's the big dog, so give me him every time.
I'd take Jonathan Taylor too.
Right.
I'd go Jonathan Taylor and then Miles Sanders, just because if you're going off track records, and then Dameon Pierce, who again, keeper league, dynasty league, I'll take a flyer on him, see where that offense gets to with new head coach that I really like over in Houston, and with a bunch of young pieces that they'll continue to build around.
You had a good rookie season.
It wouldn't shock me if Dameon Pierce winds up putting up the best numbers of those 3 running backs this year either. So,
yeah, he had over 1,000 yards as a rookie, right? So,
just under.
Just under? Yeah, still very good. Yeah, I agree. Jonathan Taylor, if he plays, is, I think, by far the best of them, just talent-wise. Makes me think if I was the coach of the Colts, I would just never throw the ball. Just Jonathan Taylor one way and Anthony Richard the other way. Just make the defense choose what side of the field they want to go to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very Lamar Jackson rookie year type offense. A lot of read option, a lot of screens, a lot of short dump off, like just to get him comfortable back there.
Do you think that their tight end will put up any points this year?
I think their tight end in a system like that, like if it's anything like the Lamar Jackson trend, that he's probably the best bet to, because it's easier to get the ball to a guy like that in the play system scheme that they're running, if they're going to run it similar to what they did with Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews his rookie season.
Mo Alley Cox, isn't he like 7 feet tall?
I thought they had a rookie guy that came on strong at the end of last season.
Right now I'm seeing Jelani Woods is
Jelani Woods.
Yeah. Maybe
He's
surprise.
a freak of nature.
Maybe a surprise breakout in the tight ends. Sleeper pick? I don't know what sleeper rankings have him currently as.
I can't imagine he's a top 15 tight end on
Oh,
anybody's board.
No,
He's
definitely.
probably sitting in the free agency waiting to get picked up on a bye week, or if he comes out strong or winds up being Richardson's only target.
Right. He's like touchdown go-to guy.
Yeah.
All right. Absolute definition of a sleeper. Like, no one's going to be drafting that guy, but I wouldn't be surprised. Any other thoughts when it comes to these first-year QBs?
No,
No,
I don't want them.
you don't want them. You don't want any part of them.
No, not at least until week 3.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I think you'll know a lot more by week 6, 7, or 8 with what the trend of those young first-year quarterbacks are going to be.
Andy, how are we doing on time?
I think it's time to call it quits.
Oh, okay.
I don't really know for sure. We're only at 36 minutes.
Oh,
Let's
man.
go. We got time to talk about the league.
You want to talk about
Yeah.
our league?
We got our draft this weekend. I'm getting excited. Been doing some research, some draft strategy, and I'm just curious which way you're going, Andy.
I mean, I would love to get one of the top 3 running backs.
Who are the top 3 available?
In our keeper league, the top 3 running backs available are Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Breece Hall. Is there anybody who disagrees with that?
I don't know who are the other running backs that are like eligible to be drafted or auctioned.
So we got the 3 that Andy just said, and then we got Alexander Madison that you let go. He's the next. He's actually ranked, depending on what you're looking at, higher than Gibbs. James Conner, Damian Pierce, Miles Sanders, Rashad White, Cam Akers, Isaiah Pacheco, J.K. Dobbins, etc. So there's a lot of talent there, a lot of skill. I don't know. I'm torn between trying to get out of that running back dead zone and just letting all these guys go and try and pick up the scraps and spend my money elsewhere, or going big on Bijan, the big D in the room, and or potentially just getting 2 of these middling guys that we read past the top 2 or 3. So I mean, we'll see. I'm excited about it, but
I think obviously outside of like Bijan, with the hype that's surrounding him right now, the guy I hope that I can get is Rashad White.
Okay, good to know. I'll write that down. Bid high on Rashad White. Cool.
Not allowed.
That's like the hard part is that our budgets all allow us, if we really wanted to go after the top end guys. Right.
So what is everybody's money? Like, who's got what's the highest amount of money that somebody has going into this draft, and what's the lowest?
Phil's got 153 because he chose not to keep 2 guys.
Okay, so that's
he gets an extra $24.
So he gets an extra $24, but he's got 2 more roster spots to fill at the same time.
And then what's the lowest amount of money anybody has?
Lowest budget's like 121.
121.
Okay.
And I think that's Jeff because he won the league.
So that'll work. So if I spend $100 on Bijan, I can spend $1 on every player after that.
You have to fill
100 on Bijan and still get like $2 on everyone. Yeah, you're good.
You have to fill 10 spots on your roster. So if you have $121 minus 9, you could spend $112 on Bijan and spend $1 on every other spot.
I think what the people listening into this don't realize, though, is how many added spots start each week in your league. So, like, in a standard league where you don't have the double flex and the 3 wideouts or whatever your league is set up to play, I know you have way more players playing per week than normal.
You just have the extra flex.
You just have an extra flex. Okay. I mean, I think that changes it a little, though. Like, in a 12 12-team standard league where you have the one position less, and even if you're doing a defensive kicker where everybody waits till the last 2 rounds to do that, it's like it's easier to fill that flex spot with a somewhat dominant guy if you do what you're supposed to. Where like if you don't have that money left to auction and get somebody like that, you're going to wind up with like, I saw teams in your league last year. I think, Andy, you had a couple guys that wound up coming out strong, but at the beginning of the season were like wide receiver number 4 on their team. And it's like those are guys that you're thinking you have to maybe flex each week because there's just not the depth that you would have in a normal 10-man standard league where you don't have an extra flex spot.
Right. You need to take that into account that every single week you're starting one more positional player than a standard league.
Well, and I think that's why it's so huge to be able to have like some of the teams disparity wise, obviously having 4 really good keepers like Frank is that I feel okay with where I'm at too, having 2 really good running backs and then a good wideout and then another wideout that I think would obviously be flex worthy and Cooper. But it's like you're in a huge advantage when you start that way. Like when I could sit there and go, okay, my 2 running backs are Chubb and Eckler. Like I could take a guy for, I don't know how much they're going to go for, but like if I got like a Rashad White for $15 or like a David Montgomery for like $15 later in the draft or at any point that they go up for auction, like I feel completely comfortable with that being my 3rd running back or at the flex position. Right. But if I blew all my money on Bijan Robinson, like, okay, great. Maybe I have 3 really good running backs, but what do my 4 other players and buys and on flex positions look like if I have a bunch of Rashad Batemans or something, and it's like they're going to be like 1 point, maybe 15 points if they have a 80-yard touchdown catch. Like if that's what you're relying on every week, Bijan Robinson wasn't worth paying $80 for.
Right. And Bijan's going to be inflated in our league because of all these keepers, which is why in a normal league you might see somebody spend around 25% of their budget on Bijan. Yeah. I think we're going to see upwards of 60 to 70% of somebody's budget on Bijan.
I just wish I knew what everybody was going to bid so I could keep pushing the dollar up, but not actually wind up spending that money on them so that I can just make somebody keep doing that. I kind of hope Frank winds up. I kind of hope Frank secretly winds up with Bijan so that he's got 8 guys he wants to keep next year instead of the 7 he wants this year, and he has a harder decision.
I want to keep every single year. And I'm fine if I drive up the price, and I plan to do the same thing. No one's going home with Bijan for less than $80. Sorry, Andy. And that being said, if I end up getting stuck with him because I give him up, drive him up to 80, and no one wants him, that's fine. I'll work on filling out my roster with sleepers.
I'm gonna call your bluff
anyways. So
I'm gonna call your bluff and go to 81 and see if you'll go to 82.
I mean, do it. 2 years ago, like I said, I led. I took Najee for $75.
Strategy.
I spent 80% of my budget on 2 guys, him and Javonte Williams, and I ended up being the number 1 seed that year. And I was finding values for $2 a piece here and there. So,
which I think is absolutely possible. I think it's just one of those that you have to look at what you have on your team. Like obviously, somebody that doesn't have as deep a keepers, it's harder to blow your load on one guy and then hope you get a bunch of sleepers that click. Like I would rather. Like if I don't have that deep of a team, I'd rather get a bunch of Rashad White, David Montgomerys, like those type of guys to be able to have like 12 guys or 10 guys that I could put out any week and get 7 to 10 points out of, instead of maybe Bijan gets me 20. But if my 4 guys that are flexed and wideouts get me a combined 8, it's like, wasn't worth it.
See, I disagree. If I'm my strategy in this keeper league format that we have, if I'm that terrible team, who is it? Shooter has like the worst keepers imaginable, right? I'm spending as much money as I need to get Bijan. I'm guaranteeing
thinking that he's going to
next
another
year.
Keeper. Yeah,
It's going to be too hard for me to get a winner with these keepers that I have. I'm playing for the year after, so I'm getting Bijan. I'm getting, if I can get Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan, I'm happy, and I'm playing for next year.
I feel like it's just as much as like I didn't like how the league was set up when I was first in it, and that was part of the reason I was out and then got back in. I think there is a lot of strategy that goes into it. Like if it's a dynasty, it's a lot easier to manage.
Yeah.
Like I'm shelling out as much money as possible to be good 5 years from now. But it's like ultimately, even if you were to get like a Gibbs and a Bijan, it's like if any of your other guys are still good, it's like you can only hold 4 of them anyways. So it's like it'd be way different in a dynasty league to go, I'm going to spend all that money because I know I can have 7 of these guys come back to my team versus like I'm going to have to throw 3 back.
Mm-hmm.
That is the dichotomy of the situation. So those 2 players that Frank spent like 100% of his budget on, Najee Harris and Javonte Williams, 2 years ago, are still your keepers today.
Yep.
Which makes it worth it.
Yes.
And they have ups and downs. Obviously, they've had injuries, they've had whatever. But I'm just banking on a rebound, and I just need them to be.
But then I'll give you the opposite. The last 2 was last year, right? The highest 2 running backs to go last year were Breece Hall and DeAndre Swift. Right?
Yeah, but Swift wasn't a rookie, so.
Not about rookies, but they were the 2 highest drafted running backs to go, and they both got dropped. They weren't kept.
Swift got kept.
Oh, did he? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
But Swift is a risky keeper. I mean, if he's on
super risky keeper.
If he's on 6 other teams in the league, he's not getting kept.
I don't like.
He would not have gotten kept. He would not have gotten kept if he was on my team. He wouldn't have gotten kept if he was on Frank's team. Like he's not getting kept if he's on Kyle's team.
That's what I was surprised he was kept.
Yeah. What can we say?
But again, if you're the guy that spent $75 on him last year, you almost feel like you have to.
Definitely.
So it'll be interesting because I haven't done an auction draft in a while to see like what I decide to do come draft day.
It's hard to come up with a plan too, because suddenly somebody goes $5 over what you're comfortable with, and your whole plan goes out the window.
Yep.
You could have been banking on getting Bijan and being like, I'm going all in on this guy, and then you just can't pull the trigger. And suddenly you need to come up with another plan on the spot, and it just, I don't know, it can snowball on you, where suddenly you're looking at the end of the draft and all the good people are there, and you're sitting there with $100 still. And yeah, you can bully people around then, but what, you're bullying them around for Gabe Davis?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah, he's all yours. Yeah. No, if you're Phil or Joe in this league, they have the 2 highest budgets. Nobody can outbid them if they want them. Those 2 guys should be going after Bijan, and there's no reason one of those 2 guys shouldn't get him. But like Frank said, like I also will build, go after Bijan and push the price, because if I can get him for, I don't know, maybe 79,
you can't.
I'm gonna try. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun. I'm ready to have my heart broken. There are guys that I wanted to keep and didn't have room for. It's gonna be sad to let them go, but it'll be fun.
All right. Hey. Well, let's call it an episode. We're at 48 minutes. Pretty good.
Give us a sign-off jingle.
Yep. You gonna write the song for us?
No, you got it. All right, I'm making a sound clip of it.
I think we got a lot accomplished.
Yeah. You guys, thanks for joining Touchdown Nerdcast. See you next time.
Peace.
Bye all.